At this stage, we are still awaiting the establishment of more stations, and the most important criticism to be leveled in relation to the pace of the process has to do with the pace of Region 4. Region 4, as you know, has the largest number of boxes, and we have just completed about about 55 to 60% of the boxes of for Region 4, and the process is almost at an end. And as new stations are opening up, one would have thought that the logical and intelligent thing to do would be to make available more stations for Region 4. So Region 3 was concluded, and that released some four stations, and Region 7 was completed, and that released another station. Instead of allocating proportionately, having regard to the volume of work left in the exercise, and having regard to the fact that the bulk, over 50% of the ballots to be counted are in Region 4, one would have expected that these released stations would have been allocated proportionately, and Region 4, therefore, would have been the beneficiary of, at least three of the open stations or the available stations. Instead, one single station was added to Region 4, and the rest to Region 10 and Region 6, where the boxes are just over 100 and something, and the ballots in those boxes are small, in particular Region 10. So you have this skewed allocation of resources that is not proportionate to the amount of work left. So you're not having sensible decisions made that can easily augment the speed which is required, especially for Region 4 to be accelerated. So we continue to make representations, and our representations seem to be falling on deaf ears. The Commission has its own queer and weird logic. But the process is ongoing. We still are hoping that we will get additional stations opened, and we will get them dedicated to Region 4, so that we do not have the situation which occurred at Ashman's building, where all the regions were completed, and Region 4, the reason why we are here, the very reason why we are here, and the only reason why we are here, is left behind. So we hope that some change of heart will take place, and common sense will prevail over whatever other considerations are dominant at this point in time. And the need to increase the stations for Region 4 would be recognized sooner rather than later. As you are aware, the Commission is engaged currently in meetings to determine the extension. Now, we thought that this was a simple process. At this rate, 90 per day, 1 week ought to have been adequate for the completion of the recount, and then we thought that another week would have been taken for Mr. Lowenfield to tabulate and compile his report and pass it to the commission, and for the commission to conclude, make its declaration. So we felt that 2 weeks would have been sufficient, and we didn't realize that there is going to be any controversy. Lo and behold, we are now faced with a situation where the commission wants the recount and Lowenfield's report to be concluded in 16 days, and the commission doesn't want to put a stipulated time for the declaration of the results by the commission. So they want to leave it, the time, open-ended for them to deliberate on Lowenfield's report. Now that is completely unacceptable, because everything that we have done here would be rendered nugatory, would become illusory if we don't get the declaration in time. It is the declaration that is the most important aspect of this entire recount. The entire recount is to produce a declaration in a timely manner. And we thought that the commission would recognize that. They fixed 25 days and they have violated it. The parties have said, okay, we will agree to an extension of time. Now we are at that stage, negotiating an extension of time, and the government commissioners are arguing to leave the time open-ended for the declaration of the final results to be made. That is completely unacceptable. And that is the political direction, obviously, which is coming from Congress Place, because it is something that they want to try in that interregnum. And significantly, as you are aware, the deputy CEO, who is not a member of the commission, is participating in this meeting and seemed to be the most dominant personality in the meeting. Now the commission is made up of the chairperson and 6 commissioners. The commission is not made up of the CEO and the DCO. They have no part to play in the commission decision making. Their task under the law is to execute decisions of the commission. You have the position here where the DCO, the CEO is absent. The DCO is arguing as though the DCO is the commission, or is a major functionary within the commission. And the DCO has no locus standi, technically speaking, to even be part of the commission, because she is not part of the commission. But you find the members in the commission are ceding, including the chairperson, are ceding to this DCO. And the DCO, they have a legal officer, I am told, who should be the person drafting these orders and amended orders. But the DCO hijacks that responsibility, and when a draft is taken and brought back, it contains words which were not there in the first place. So the DCO seemed to be using that opportunity to insert her own opinion and views in the commission's draft. And that again continues to consume time. So right now there is a big battle going on in the commission in relation to that issue. When will the final results be declared? Recall, this election, as I keep saying to you, will not conclude, or will only conclude, with the declaration of the final results. That is when an election is concluded. So, though we have gone through nearly 2 months, we will be concluding, I think, 3 months on June the 2nd, since March the 2nd elections. And we still are now faced with a situation where there is no deadline or timeline when the final results are likely to be declared. This violates all expectations, it violates all international standards, and it may be violative of the law, because the law says that when there is a recount, there is a tabulation, and there is a declaration of the results of the recount. There is no break in time or no inordinate break in time. It's a fluid process. You recount, you tabulate, and you declare the results. It's a one process. Now we have a breaking in the process and a period for, I don't know what they have to deliberate about. As we keep saying, this is a recount of the ballots cast and counted on elections day. It's an arithmetic process. You add and you come to an answer and you disclose that answer. Nothing else is catered for in a recount process. And any attempt to take it beyond that, as I've articulated to you before, will be ultra vires a recount. So those are my brief remarks today. And if you have any questions, I'll be willing to try to answer them at least.
Mr. Nandlall, are you saying, just for clarity's sake, are you saying that once the CEO would have presented his report to the commission, automatically that declaration should be made?
Yes, once the commission will have an opportunity, obviously, to verify what the CEO has presented to be accurate. And once that is done, then the results is a natural consequence.
But don't you think they should have time maybe to consider the observation report and that would be
They,
compiled?
yes, but how much time? That is what we want them to tell us, how much time. It cannot be for the rest of the year. They are not fixing a time. This country is on hold. People's lives are on hold on this process. The team from CARICOM are here. They have to go back. The process must come to an end, and we must know any responsible commission has a duty to disclose to the population the time frames, and it can be unreasonable time frames, because it's the CEO who has to do most of the work, and he has to complete his work within a 16 days period. That is what the amendment says. The commission now, the commission job is almost ceremonial. It's almost ceremonial. It's simply to go through a course of simply verifying. I can't imagine that Law and Field will give them inaccurate tabulation. That would be highly abnormal.
What is a
But
reasonable time frame, Mr. Nandlall?
we would say 2 days, 3 days, 3 meetings. What is there to discuss? Ordinarily, Nazima, ordinarily, election results are disclosed in 2 days. All the ballots counted, CEO tabulates, goes to the commission, and within 42 to 72 hours, election results are over. That is the internationally recognized time. There is no rocket science going on here.
Yeah, but Mr. Nandlall, would you admit that that scenario that you're presenting is relevant under the Representation of the People's Act?
My friend, what is going on here is the recount of ballots. Isn't that what we are calling it?
And the Commission have also the
And the commission has to
observation
take,
report which they have to
yes,
on.
and the CEO has to prepare a summary. And how long you think, what do you think the observation report is? Is a summary of the objections. The position is that the GCOM can't do anything with it. GCOM cannot do anything with it in law. Therefore, there is, what are you going to do with it?
Mr. Nandlall,
You can't take evidence. You can't investigate it. You don't have that power. So you simply have to tabulate and look at the numbers that Mr. Lowenfield presents, and if they accord with the tabulation figures, well then so be it. That is the end of the matter. Every other thing is you are ventilate elsewhere. There is nothing different from this than any other elections, and no other elections. GCOM, the commission, when the CEO presents its report, can look at it and say, well, we believe that people voted. That is not the role of a commission. That must be ventilated in another forum, as I have articulated before. I don't wish to rehash it. And those who come here and lecture to you, they are speaking about an issue in which they have no competence, and I don't mean to condescend to anybody. You never hear me come here and speak economics. You never hear me come here and speak about cardiovascular surgery. I come here and I speak about law and the Constitution. But every time Dick and Harry Lal wants to come to this forum and lecture on law, and they never attended a single hour of law lecture anywhere. So, yes.
You said that you were going to, the PPP was going to write the commission on this issue of collecting evidence from, say, the coalition. Could you say if that letter was dispatched?
No, that letter was not dispatched as yet, but we have not seen any evidence and we have no evidence to suggest that the commission is moving in that direction. So we might as well not pursue it, because we don't also want to contribute to the chaos.
Mr. Nandlall, would you agree or disagree that the commission have a right to verify the claims that were made, at least to verify?
I disagree with you, my brother. There is a place where verification, there is a lady in Trasbay who called me. Her son was going to vote and somebody pelted him. And he had a big scar on his back. So you hear that people coming here and bringing all kind of complaints about what happened in the election day to them. So she asked me if she can come and drop her complaint here too, because her son was beaten election day. You understand? I hear some people come here and say 90,000 wrong votes were put in there. A vote, the right to vote, is a legal right. You think that this commission can deny any person their vote without hearing them? You will have to hear 90,000 people before you deny them their right to vote. So those who are speaking about these things, they have not an idea conceptually of what they're speaking about. You understand? So it's very, very clear that the commission doesn't have that mandate and that power. And it is not structured to receive evidence and that sort of thing. It's an election commission. There is a recount going on, the votes have to be recounted, and the results disclosed. As simple as that.
What is the purpose then of it being articulated in order that a summary of the observation report has to be handed to the commission? What's the purpose of them having to consider that summary?
My view is that was totally irrelevant. But the commission, in their wisdom, decided to provide a receptacle for people who wants to make that it was intended. If you have a poll book problem and there are any irregularities that may have occurred within the station, for example, a torn ballot, etc., that observation report was intended to record those miscellaneous matters, not to be used to construct a narrative that dead people voted and migrated people voted. It was never intended for that. But that observation report is being exploited. But whatever it is, we're not very concerned about it, because no use can be made of it.
Mr. Nandlall, clarification. In your view, if it is that the matters or the issues that are arisen out of the observation report will affect the actual outcome of those results that were tabulated,
it cannot. It cannot. Because these are allegations that cannot be established, because the GCOM has no capacity to entertain them or to allow their establishment or proof. GCOM doesn't have that capacity. I hear this gentleman come here, Mr. Norton.
How then does GCOM deals with preparing its official list when it comes to eliminating persons who have migrated and those who would have died?
My brother, there's a process. The list goes through an orientation, a cyclical process every year, all year round, whereby you lodge claims and objections to those who may have migrated or those who may have those who may have died. That is an ongoing process. That has nothing to do with elections. That process goes on all year round. That is why we have what we call a cyclical form of registration and not a one-off type of registration system, which we used to have. You understand? So that takes care of itself. You don't have to, election time has nothing to do with that. That is why at election time the cycle is stopped for the first time and it restarts after election so that no new people can be added until elections are concluded. And no people can be taken off. You have a cutoff point and you go to the election with that list at that cutoff point.
The leader of your party has opined that the coalition wants to annul the elections. In your view, is there a legal pathway for that to happen before a declaration of the results?
It's not a. I presume that you're speaking about General Secretary Jagdev. That was not Jagdev's opinion. That is what the coalition wants to do. That they have expressed a view.
And is there a pathway for that?
Of course not. And elections can only be annulled by the court. GCOM is the institution holding the elections. GCOM can't convert itself into a judge and jury and judge itself. You have a problem with how GCOM acted, you have to go to the court and the court annuls it. There is no provision in the law at all for GCOM to deal with disputes.
Mr. Nandlall, I'm a bit baffled.
You will be baffled, comrade, because these are areas of law that you are not trained in.
You don't know what I'm baffled.
I know you're baffled since I come here. Since last week you're baffled.
I haven't asked a question.
You keep asking me the same thing, but go on.
Okay, I'm baffled about your outbursts.
Outbursts. Can't be outbursts.
There are many.
Anyway, let's go.
How is it that, okay, the count, the order says it's not just a recount of the ballots. That's what the order says. And if there ought to be a reconciliation and we want to establish credibility that when we walk away from here, all are satisfied.
Which order you're reading? Which order has all those things? We got to walk away from here and we have to feel satisfied. The PNC, the APNU, AFC will never be satisfied because they have lost the elections. I am telling you that there is one group of people here who have never won an election and they will never win one. And they will never be pleased with an election results. So your hypothesis upon which you are embarking is fallible and has fallen.
Your opinion again.
Well, I am only expressing my opinion. It's only me here.
All right, but I'm saying to you that if it is that your party, as well as all the other parties, wants a credible process, why not follow what GCOM is supervising, and at the end of it, well, everybody is satisfied that the outcome, this is it, a finality is to it, and nobody can
My friend,
run here and there or shout up and down.
my friend, hold on.
You weren't granted
The only fraud that was committed in this election was committed by Mingo carrying out the directions of APNU, AFC, right? That's one. You can live in your own world. Two, the PPP asked for a recount. The APNU, AFC never wanted to. They were forced to come here. Thirdly, we championed for live streaming. We championed for transparency. We championed for you to go in there and videotape the thing. We championed for use of cell phones. They opposed to all. We want observers to be here to observe the recount. And you want to tell me that we don't want credibility and we don't want transparency? Which world are you living in? Every party here wants that except the AFC, APNU. And no matter how many questions you ask me, that reality will not change.
Sir, just a follow-up on my
You sure you want to follow up on this?
Yes.
All right.
if the commission takes a decision that it will access the immigration records and it will accept the death certificates and it will move to verify or to negate the claims made by the coalition, if it goes ahead with that and it is found indeed.
No, it will not be permitted to go ahead with that.
No, but if it happens.
No,
because
it
the
will not
chair-
happen.
The chair has said. But
No,
yes,
no, the court will stop it.
You will move to
The
court.
court will stop it if it embarks
The
upon an
PPP
excess.
will move to
The,
court,
look,
sir.
anytime the commission acts outside of its legal powers, the court will be there to correct it.
But
So
allow
then
me
you
to
do
complete,
not
sir.
require a speedy conclusion to the entire process.
But
Which-
You're stopping
Which
prejudice
part
on
of what
one
I
hand
said?
and you want it in another hand.
allow me to complete, sir.
You're not making sense.
If the commission goes ahead with this,
Likewise, you're not.
if the commission goes ahead with this, and it is found indeed that at least one person, or two, or maybe 100, voted via illegal means, what would the PPP say? Would they call that
Madam,
electoral fraud?
Madam, as I said to you, the PPP has nothing to hide.
And,
But the PPP will not participate in an illegal exercise. If GCOM goes down a road that GCOM has no power to travel and wants to perform functions that GCOM has no lawful right and power to perform, then the PPP will not participate in that process. So I don't want to go into eventualities and speculate. It cannot go in that direction. The law will not permit it. I can only speak about what is permissible in law. Anything is physically possible. Anything. The world is full of possibilities, physical possibilities. But what is legally possible is what I can speak about. You understand? Tomorrow somebody in there might walk on water. That's physically possible. Scientifically, it may not be possible. It's not possible. So that's the position. So let's not speculate and say what GCOM will do and GCOM will not do. Because, as I said to you, there is not a single ballot that GCOM can interfere with without hearing the voter. So you have 90,000 people will have to come here and be heard. That is why an elections petition is advertised in the official gazette so that the world can come and join. Any voter can come and join. You think this place got that kind of ability? GCOM can hear cases? And the thing is so ridiculous. The least said about it, the better.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.